Hey, welcome to Optimize Your Body with Martin Silva, where we talk raw, uncut facts to truly help you optimize your body. Today I'm here with Amy Fox, the IFBB Pro Physique athlete and fellow friend at Titan Fitness. How you doing, Amy?
Friend and colleague.
Friend and colleague, yeah. Forgot to mention that part.
Yeah,
All
no,
good.
I'm good.
Yeah.
I spoke to you before, so I've actually had a really busy weekend at the Arnold Classic, or the Arnold Sports Festival 2018, and that was held in Melbourne. And I was totally run off my feet there, but having the greatest time working, doing a little bit of judging, helping organise the back end of things, and just had a great experience. So back into things here in Sydney, and I'm feeling a bit tired, a bit exhausted from it all.
Yeah, no doubt. So you do some judging stuff as well at the
I've just started. So I did
find that?
It was tough, actually. It was really hard. So much more goes into it than what most people think, and what I used to think as well. There's more than what meets the eye. But when you're sitting that close, it's amazing at the things that kind of jump out at you when you're judging. So hopefully I'll get better. I think it's one of those things that takes practice as well. But, you know, we had so many great athletes on the weekend, which made it even harder.
I bet.
Yeah.
I say it makes it much harder than it, because obviously you've got so much talent.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to critique like the minor details, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why it's a cutthroat thing, isn't it? Because you've been there yourself. To get to the pro level, basically, like you have, I've done it with the WBFF, but I mean, IFBB, I mean, to get to the pro level doing that is like another ball game altogether. So how have you found it in the past? Like, because obviously from a judge's perspective, now you obviously must be able to see the difference now, see how it feels, obviously you being a competitor yourself and getting to the pro level, and you must have, I guess, you didn't win straight away, you must have had to work for that pro status. So how did you actually find the journey? I mean, how did you actually manage to, how many competitions first of all did you do until you got to that pro level?
I've been asked this question before, how many comps
I've done.
I
You've lost count.
don't even know. Yeah,
That's how hard you had to work for it.
Shows that I did, but I did my first show in 2007 and got my pro card in 2014, which I think in the overall perspective of things, that's just actually quite quick.
Yeah, that is.
So, you know, but a lot of things make it quick as well, so it depends on your work ethic and how you take your training, possibly genetics as well, your support network around you, that means friends, family, and just opportunities that are happening, how you're travelling financially as well, to whether or not you can invest more time in physical therapy and training and food and nutrition, and actually spend the money on these things so you can progress faster. So there's a lot of reasons why people achieve things faster than others. But I guess at the end of the day, it does come down to willpower, because even though you might not have much money, you might have a greater willpower and you still achieve the same end result at the end of the day as well.
Exactly.
So there might be barriers, but they're not going to say you're not going to achieve something because of this. So
exactly.
That's
and
cool.
It comes down to how much do you want it, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can apply that to anything in life. Obviously, it must be interesting now being a judge, because obviously it's a subjective sport, right?
Yeah.
So it's pretty much the only sport out there which is essentially, as harsh as it sounds, it's based on people's opinions, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, with my journey, I think it took me about 8 competitions until I actually won one. I started off with IFBB as men's physique. So I've done about 5.
I love that division.
Yeah, I know.
love that division.
It's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah.
And now it's like, it's different. It's a different. I've done it back in, I think it was back in 2013. And it's a different ballgame now altogether. The guys are much bigger for a start. So it's almost like the bodybuilder kind of, like they're like classic bodybuilders, aren't they, really, nowadays? But yeah, I started off doing that, you know, with the board shorts. Luckily, because at the time I had 0 legs anyway. I had legs like cotton buds. So
He's got legs now.
I got legs now. You can't see them, but I'm not getting them out next to Amy, that's for sure. No, but yeah. So I didn't get the results I wanted, and I was just like, you know, you probably experienced it yourself. Yeah, the first few times, you just shattered, heartbroken.
Yeah.
And you're like, you feel like, oh my god, like what more can I do? You know in your head, because you've got to go up there expecting to win, right?
Yeah.
So when I went up there, I was like, you know, really confident going into it. I had the condition, but I didn't quite get the posing right. I didn't get the tan right a few times.
But did you know this at the time? Or
No.
was this something that you
No.
Came to realise afterwards.
Afterwards, yeah. That's the thing, see, and it's on the day, isn't it, Aim? That's what counts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I was exactly the same. So I started, I placed and I did a couple of shows at an amateur level that I did really well at, and then at the next show I placed third, and then you're kind of like, well, what the hell? Like I placed first last week, and then I placed first this week. Like I don't understand how this is all working, but when you step back from it and you actually analyse it properly, all of these things, like maybe it was your tan that wasn't quite right, or maybe your posing was a little bit off. Maybe you were just positioned on stage and you weren't aware that the head judge was sitting in a particular spot. So you were posing your absolute best angle to the crowd and not the judging table. So therefore they missed your best pose, and that hurt you. It's really interesting because looking back now, every time I didn't win, at the time, I thought it was total bullshit, as everyone does. Like, that's crap. Like, judges don't know what they're looking for.
You're really bitter and angry, isn't it?
Bitter and angry, and you go and have a bitch and a moan and whatever. However, looking back now, I'm like, I can absolutely see why I didn't place.
Absolutely.
So I understand when people get frustrated and angry and upset when they don't win. However, with this sport, because like you said, it's not a running race, it's not the quickest over the line is the first place getter. You have to look at absolutely everything. And one of the things that I found out is that one thing of the body is not worth more than another thing in terms of point scoring. So just because you've got good abs and no legs doesn't mean you're going to win. And just because you've got great legs and a thick waist doesn't mean you're going to lose.
Exactly, yeah.
So all of these body parts are judged the same.
Yeah.
But it's a combination of weaknesses and a combination of that's right.
And then obviously not to mention you're the pro when it comes to posing and stuff like that. You know, the posing and how you present yourself on stage. All of these things are so, I mean, it's the combination of everything. It's all the intricate details, isn't it, which make all the difference. But I was exactly the same as you after, like 5 times in a row. I came second, like you said then. I came second, then I made it to the British finals, then I didn't place in the top 6.
Yeah.
And then I just kept getting worse results, and I was just like,
what the hell's
what am I doing?
Yeah.
I don't get this. Like, I'm trying putting everything in. I felt like I was bringing better condition, but I wasn't, like you said, the minor details, and it's the full package, right? So it's proportion and symmetry as a whole, and then presenting yourself, the tan. You're dry enough, you're full enough. There's all these things. People don't really realise that until they actually get out there and learn.
Yeah, and I would say, like, one thing that I would recommend people do if they're getting beaten or they're just missing out or they keep placing second over and over again, don't take the feedback as personal criticism for a start. Like, obviously the judges want to see you progressing and doing better and, hopefully becoming pro one day. Like, that's ideally, everyone wants to see everyone succeed. So they're not trying to hold you back by placing you second. It's a real indication that it's not favoritism, it's not they're being hard on you. There is an actual reason as to why you are not placing. And whether or not some of the judges might not even know it at a glance, there's something that makes them go, yeah, it's good, but there's something not quite right. Whereas someone else walks out and it's like, wow, I don't know why this person is a wow, but they're just wow.
Yeah, for sure.
There's kind of like...
Got a wow factor.
Yeah, they've just got a wow factor, and that's what you've got to aim for. So the thing that will hold you back the most is if you crack the shits and hold on to like that shitty feeling of not placing.
For sure.
So I always say to the girls and guys when they're wanting like feedback and things, get the top placing pro in that federation, put your photos, your identical pose photos, right up next to them and look at it. Like, the judges aren't looking for you to, they're not comparing you with the next amateur that just won. They're comparing your body with the pro level athletes.
Yeah.
So you've got your pro level athlete who's got the perfect package. And then you take you that came second. You've got your bodies side by side. And then you can actually physically see what area is letting you down. You don't need the judges to tell you this. So have a look at it. Are your shoulders as big as the pro? Yes or no? Well, if the answer is no, well, give yourself 1 point.
Exactly.
Give yourself 1 point. Okay, so that's one thing that I've got to work on.
Yeah.
Shoulders. Have a look again. Is the pro's waist bigger or smaller than my waist? Yeah, smaller waist. I've got to work on that. You've got another point. The higher your scores, obviously, means the lower down you're going to place.
Yeah, yeah.
Because the lowest score wins.
Yeah, that's it.
So, but always compare yourself next to the pro. Then have a look at the condition. Is my condition through my back area the same as the pros? Yes or no? Yeah, actually, I think it is the same. So, 0. Turn to the front. Is my condition the same at the front?
Yeah, by condition, just for the listeners, by condition you mean like lean, shredded, you know, am I basically lean enough, essentially? That's
am I lean enough? Is my body fat low enough?
Yeah, and then you hold the water as well, because that's going to determine how you look in terms of visible, you know, visible striations in the muscles and all that kind of stuff as well.
Yes, correct. So, and also it depends on the category too. So lean per category can mean different things. So lean in bodybuilding could mean vascularity, striations. Lean in bikini should mean like it's more of like a tone kind of look.
That's what you mean.
Like you shouldn't see vascularity and veins through the abdominals of a bikini competitor.
Yeah.
But
it's still meant to keep that. That's the tricky thing, and then they're meant to keep the feminine kind of look, like the beach body look, if you like, but lean with it. But then there's numerous different judges who did you find that? I know you don't want to obviously talk too much, but did you find that people have different opinions, and then you all come together towards the end, and you just kind of you hash it out and then decide like that, is it, towards the end of the judging criteria, is it?
Yeah, and I mean, this is human bias. So in the judging panel, there's always going to be an uneven number of judges because that element of opinion takes over. So that's why you don't have one person judging the show. Because me, growing up, I used to love legs. I love the look of legs. I think, like, if I see someone with great legs, I tend to push past the fact that they've got muscular legs and they
just
might be fat.
by the legs, because you know what work goes into building your legs up, right?
So I found that my eye was really drawn to someone with legs over someone with condition.
Yeah, exactly, because that's your personal preference.
It's my personal preference.
Yeah.
But the next judge sitting next to me is thinking, who cares if they've got big legs? They're fat.
Yeah, of course.
So who cares? So their preference, they're fat, fluidy, whatever, spilled over. Fluffy.
One way or another, they bring in the condition.
Yeah. So, but my preference was the shape and the muscularity over the condition, and the next judge, their preference was condition because they know how hard it is to get condition over shape.
Yeah.
So this is where you'll get
combination
differences.
Of opinions, and really.
Combination of
but
opinions.
Obviously, at the same time, it's unmistakable sometimes, isn't it? If someone brings the full package, you know, like you said, the wow factor, it's game over, isn't it?
Yeah.
But anyway, I was just going to say, in terms of you getting to where you have in the bodybuilding world, getting to the pro level, IFBB Physique competitor, and obviously I've done that with WBFF as well. And what I've learned from it is some like valuable life lessons, and obviously it completely changes the way you are as a person and everything, right? But I've learned to apply the discipline and the mindset required to get to that level, even just to get on stage, right? That's one thing. But to actually get to the pro level, you have to be resilient. You have to have a particular kind of mindset, right? You have to, like willpower, you have to work on your willpower all the time, day in, day out, and all the rest of it, right? It just comes down to discipline and having that like go-getter mindset, right? But have you managed to apply like some of this into your day-to-day life in terms of like business and just in general, and just in terms of you having, you know, a strong character essentially, and having discipline, determination? Have you managed to apply that into other aspects of your life?
Yeah, I think so. I think just being on stage, being judged by your physical appearance has actually given me a lot of confidence, believe it or not. So I feel like the outside of your body is just a shell. It doesn't change the person you are inside. And when I was prepping for a show, even going down to the shopping centre or lining up in a line, I would be treated very, very differently when I was muscular and shredded. Well, I was never super shredded, but you know what I mean, for a girl. Like,
I don't know, you were pretty shredded. You were pretty shredded, eh? Go that far.
But I was treated differently. And then when you're not as muscular and not as lean, it sounds weird, but like for example, when I was looking like that, like just before my show, I would be lining up in a line and people would notice me and let me line up. Whereas now I could be standing in a line and someone would just like walk straight in front and jump the queue, and I'm like, I was just standing here. So you just get noticed in different ways, and not always for the better.
Yeah, of course.
As well, being a more muscular female.
Yeah.
But the way you're treated is different, and it just made me think, That's interesting. Like, I know people are always taught from a young age, you know, don't judge a book by its cover, but it's human nature. That's what happens.
Absolutely.
And in terms of opportunities within the fitness industry as well, if you're not looking a certain way, they're very quick to get rid of you.
Yeah, for sure.
So it just made me think, it gave me confidence because I thought, okay, so I can't rely on something fickle like the external visual appearance to be successful and do a good job at my work. So I know I'm a good worker. I know that I have people's best interests at heart. So if I can get that message across, then I'm going to be successful regardless of if I'm muscular and shredded or just how I look now.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that.
Yeah, so, and I can walk down the street whether I'm looking like that or looking like this or 5 kilos overweight and still feel good.
Yeah, exactly.
So I feel like when you've got the formula to know how to get into really good shape, it's actually very empowering. So when you know exactly like, okay, I've got a wedding in 6 weeks, I know that if I do this, this and this, I'm going to look this way. And that's empowering.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. You know you can make a few changes, a few tweaks. You know your body. You learn essentially.
You do the same thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Even for a photo shoot. Someone says, hey, Martin, can you get you for your photo shoot in 3 weeks? And you're like, oh, right now, give me 4.
Yeah, I can dial it in really fast.
Yeah,
that's it.
Or, actually, you know what? I can be ready in 2. Because you know your body like that. And
that's
it's great. Like, it's a good feeling. And I think that's what causes a lot of panic and a lot of stress with a lot of people that want fat loss is because they never really know how long it's going to take to look a certain way. And that can be stressful.
Definitely, yeah. I wanted to talk a bit more about like the dark side of bodybuilding, right? Because as we know, there's lots of dark sides. But I wanted to talk a bit more in terms of health, right? Because a lot of people look up to like people with lots of big following on Instagram. They go to the pro level or whatever, and they're fitness models. They look shredded all the time in their photos. Like with myself and you, I mean, we're pretty lean all year round, right? So we're in a pretty good state of health all year round, right? Generally, but I find a lot of people they're not, and they battle in terms of maintaining a physique and just all round health all year round. So it gives off kind of the wrong impression sometimes when people go onto they follow certain fitness models or competitors, and they'll look at their photos and stuff, and they're like shredded, and they're like. They don't really look like that, and they're not necessarily healthy on the inside. Yeah. So, have you? I mean, what have you noticed in terms of like people compromising, certain things in terms of their health, whether it be like just their mental well-being, emotional, because something's got to give, right? When you go in at that level, like I mean, you must have witnessed some of that, and it's quite alarming, really, because a lot of people don't realise that some of these bodybuilders they're not healthy, they're not happy, So whereas it gives off. On social media, it gives off that perfect image, doesn't it? You know what I mean? So I just wanted to see if you could give me more about that.
So one thing that I really notice for myself whenever I'm prepping, and this is just pretty much in general as well, like I find I go off the rails with discipline and consistency and healthy eating and even training if I'm tired. And I'm not saying like tired from a training session. I'm like, if I don't make sleep a priority, go to bed at a good hour, for me, I feel the best when I've had 8 hours sleep. Some people can operate on less, but when you don't make quality sleep a priority...
So important, isn't it? I've done a whole episode on this.
Yeah, I just feel like that, for me, is probably the key to success and key to being consistent with training, key to actually feeling happy, and the key to sticking to a diet. I actually found that... when I was lacking in sleep, I would get to a point because the brain is fatigued where I would crave sugar. And like, I like sugar, of course, like so does everyone, but I would quite happily say no to something sweet. But if I had spent a whole week where I was just jamming in heaps of training, heaps of clients, going to bed late, like watching a series before bed, all this stuff, being overstimulated and not rested well enough, I would start to have uncontrollable binges.
That's it, and it's funny because I've been listening to a podcast today actually, and they've done some interesting studies, and what they've proven is even one night's bad sleep, right? Say for example, you get the way they kind of determine that roughly is like under 6 hours, right? But everyone's different. So say for example, you get a rough night's sleep. Even one night's sleep can make you less insulin sensitive the next day, and it puts the other hormones out of whack. Like obviously leptin, which leptin, as you know, is the satiety hormone. It tells you when you're full. So what happens is, and it's derived from fat, so that hormone leptin is not firing as well, and ghrelin, the one that makes you hungry, is actually
goes crazy.
Yeah, it goes crazy. So they're all out of whack,
yeah.
and it's like, for example, people just kind of adapt. Like the human body will adapt to anything, right? But when you adapt to not having enough sleep, right, and people can get used to that, and it's it's widespread now.
Well, they start to tolerate it as normal.
Yeah, they think it's normal. Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, analogy is like, for example, if you're withdrawing money from the bank, right? And you keep withdrawing money, eventually you end up overdrawn, right? Yeah. And then that's when you go into the red zone. You can get into trouble, right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's the same sort of thing, right? When people are like training hard, balls to the wall, they're not sleeping enough. Somebody's got to give at some point, isn't it? And then
you're emotionally tired, mentally tired, like physically tired, everything.
Definitely. Yeah.
And then
totally.
That's when you start to run off the rails. So
me, you say yourself, that's really interesting. I get the same as well. Like the next day, I feel more cravings.
Yeah. And if I just try and fix myself, and I don't really get guilty, which is my own downfall.
But that's a good thing, though.
If I'm craving and I go out and I eat things that I shouldn't eat, I think to myself, what have I been doing this week? Because why am I craving? Oh, that's right. I've had zero sleep and I've been totally stressed out. Well, that makes sense. So that removes the guilt. So what do I need to do to stop the binge eating? I need to go to bed early tonight. And not just go to bed, but have quality sleep. So I'll make sure that I have just a little bit of magnesium before bed. I've got like an oil diffuser with essential oils. Might sound stupid for some people, but I do little things like this.
And no electrical activity as well. You don't go on your phone and stuff like that. Do you find that helps?
I still do.
Yeah, you still do.
I still do. But
try and mindful.
I try and be mindful of it. So like just gradually making the room darker. And preparing yourself for sleep. Not just be like on the computer going crazy and then, okay, 10 o'clock, got to go to bed.
That's exactly
it's
right.
Like wind down over the space of a couple of hours.
That's it.
And then go to sleep.
Awesome.
So think like have, it's almost like a little schedule or a little routine.
Yeah, that's it. You have a bit of structure.
Prepare yourself for a good night's sleep.
Yeah, definitely.
Have a hot bath or hot shower or whatever. Epsom salt bath, sit there, chill out for 10 minutes, like actually prepare for a good sleep.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to like prepare to wind down, because it's like an art this day and age, and just learning how to relax, because we're in the most stressed state we've ever been, right? So we've got the smartphone where you can do anything. In the palm of your hand, you've got this computer which can control your whole life, right? If you're not careful, so you can do everything from there. Got all this stimulation coming from all different angles, and it's like, you need to learn how to wind down, don't you? It's such a tough thing to do, though, isn't it? Like, obviously, you always got emails to check and all that. Yeah, practicing. It's like, it takes some time, doesn't it?
It's like with everything else. So if you want to get better at or get stronger, you practice being strong with your weights. If you want to increase your fitness, then you practice your cardiovascular fitness.
Exactly, yeah.
By going for a jog at first and then adding in some sprints. Yeah. Same thing with your sleep. So if you want a better, your sleep health, or what would you call it? What do people say?
Well, just say overall health, and it really is. It's the most important thing. Let's face it, food, water, all that kind of stuff, as you know, we can go without. Sleep, they've done studies in like 3 weeks. I was on rats, but like 3 weeks, and they died, the rats. I know it's animals and stuff, but whatever. It gives you a rough idea, doesn't it, right? So imagine going 3 weeks without sleep. I mean, even going like a few days. I mean, you know yourself, one nice bad sleep, and you're already connecting the dots to that, aren't you? So it'll just show how important it is. But yeah, I was going to move on to asking you more about delving a bit deeper into like binge eating, because the last episode I done was really interesting. I had like a nutritionist on, and she dealt with literally from the age of 10 till about 20, really unhealthy relationship with food and stuff. And I had it as well. I mean, I still do battle with it every now and then, but I've got to a place now, luckily, where very rarely do I crave crap food. So even if I want something, I want to have some sugar, or I want to have something more calories, right? It's normally involves nutrients now. For example, like, it's weird, like I'll have like full fat coconut yogurt, like dates, dark chocolate, almond butter. So I'll have like 2,000 calories in a bowl, but it's obviously, there's some nutrients in it. Exactly. It's not like generally like even having like pizzas and burgers, which would be like a weekly thing for me before. Now I just don't. I know how bad I feel afterwards, not just mentally, but like physically. So getting to that level takes a while. But I know you've come a long way as well, because when you first start competing, how much did you find that battle with the restricted eating for shows? Did you find it was harder at the start?
Yeah. I mean, it's always been tough because. I just like eating. Yeah, I just like eating when I want to eat, and if I'm not that hungry, I'm happy to skip a meal and then eat more later, which you can't do if you're prepping, or if you want to be like top level bodybuilding or top level competitor. That kind of thing's not on. So that takes practice. But in terms of, I mean, I'm not a nutritionist, I'm not a dietitian, this is just my own personal experience, but again, if I've got my sleep under control and I'm still having issues where I'm craving things that are going to undo my hard work, I always have the mentality of nutrient dense. So how can I get the most nutrients into my next meal to calm my body down? Because perhaps I'm craving because I need vitamin whatever. And you're just unaware of it. So first thing I'll do is I love my salad, and I go and make the biggest bowl of salad with everything in it, heaps of colour, heaps of green, and a little bit of protein, not heaps, a little bit of fats, and a little bit of carbs from not like starchy carbs, but more so vegetable carbs.
So plant-based carbs.
Yeah, and I find that actually helps for me. And whether or not it's a placebo, because you can see a big bowl and it's lots of colour and visually it's nice to look at, instead of just broccoli and chicken, like two colours, like boring. For me, that really helps, and it's always worked. So if I chuck in loads of nutrients and I eat as much as I want, like I don't put a cap on it, you're not going to get fat from lots of salad. I find that I don't even need to put sauces or anything on it, as long as I've got some kimchi or some sauerkraut that gives it that wet kind of taste. That's works for me.
Probiotics on the gut then as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it just helps get everything back in check. So I'm not going crazy.
That's it. It's the flavour as well, though, isn't it? Because, like, for example, a woman last week actually, she called it sad salad. You know, when people they'll make an effort to eat healthy, but they're not very creative, and it's just like a bland, boring salad with no flavour. That's crap, man. You've got to add the flavour, haven't you? You've got to make it palatable, right? So that's what it's all about, isn't it? But going on to like meal frequency and stuff like that, and like how you manage to maintain your physique and all-round wellness off the stage, right? So basically, over the last few years, I've started eating less frequently. So I won't eat more than like 4 times in a day, and I also implement intermittent fasting as well. So that's just every day, and that's because
you felt good on that.
I feel great on that. It's more convenient as well, because it means I don't have to prep. I don't have to worry about getting up and having breakfast 4 a.m. or something stupid like that. So generally I'll just like fast in the mornings. So I'll break my fast like late morning or early afternoon. So it's normally like on average about 16. Sometimes I'll say about 16 hours a day in the 24-hour period. Not every day though, maybe like 4 or 5 times a week. On the weekends, then I'll probably just eat more frequently. But it's worked wonders for me. I feel much better, and also the studies are now saying that actually, if you eat more than like every 4 hours or more than 4 times a day, it's really not good for health and longevity and for circadian rhythm, all that kind of stuff. So how do you structure your because I know you've always got your meals prepped and stuff. I think you've got a company who sponsors you at the moment.
Food for Fitness.
Food for Fitness. There we are. There's a lot of plug there.
Food for Fitness.
So how many? I mean, do you stick to a certain amount of meals, or do you just go by based what your body needs?
Well, actually, it's funny that you said about the health and longevity. So there's 2 different things. There's the health and longevity side of things, and there's being a good bodybuilder.
Yes.
2 very different things. So
good point.
For now, I'm all for the health and longevity stuff, which is kind of what you're doing. Like I eat less. I just eat less. All in all, so probably about three times a day.
3 times a day.
Yeah, cool. But when I'm prepping, I've got up to 10 meals a day.
There we are. That's good to hear from someone who knows their stuff, because what a lot of people who compete don't seem to do is go back to now I need to focus on health. It's like it's the only way they know. It was the same as me. You probably started off this way as well. At the start, it was like all I knew to stay in shape. This is the battle that I faced with binge eating disorder. It went on properly hard for about a year or 2 years. So where I would
what did you binge on? What was
everything, you name it. It would be like Domino's, Ben and Jerry's, cake, you name it. Whatever I could get my hands on, which was dirty, stinking food, I would get my hands on it.
And it's funny because before I started prepping, I never really craved any of that crap. But then after doing my first show, I turned into a junk food monster.
Exactly. And that's why it's restrictive eating. It's not good. It's not healthy. It's not sustainable to be restrictive with your food pattern, right? So so I used to for about a year or maybe a year and a half. It would be like Monday to Thursday. It would be like restrictive eating. So I'm eating. At the time, I thought it was healthy, but it really wasn't. It was like the same sort of foods, right? All we know from bodybuilding: chicken and broccoli, sweet potatoes, salad.
It's like not drinking and then binging on the weekend.
That's exactly
not drinking and then binging on the weekend.
Exactly, it's the same thing. It's not healthy. So so I used to then Friday, Saturday, Sunday used to be like an all-out binge, and then that went on for like I said, for about a year. 18 months. But now, like I said, I'm at a point now. It's taken me a while to get there, but just from being in tune with my body and just focusing on health, like you said, right? So, yeah, it's interesting. So what I was getting at with that is a lot of people, they still go and have their 6 meals a day or 8 meals a day all year round. You know, people who've competed because that's all they know. You know, this is what works for my body in terms of looking good. Yeah. But until you make health a priority, right? If you're focusing on the physique, I don't know if you've been there before, but with me, I was always tuned into physique, health second, even when I was off stage. So like, and then I managed to switch it now. So that's changed the game for me.
First,
yeah. Do you find that's the game changer, putting it a priority when you're off stage, or is it just having balance? Like, so that's the key thing, isn't it? You've got to enjoy yourself and live, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I think it depends on the person. So I think that some people actually want to be top level pros. So everything comes at a cost. Everything. So if you want to be a top level pro, you're going to have to sacrifice. It might be friends, it might be family, and this is even in the off season. It might be going out for dinner. It might be, you know, having late nights, or it might be the food, like you're talking about, having less food. So if you're wanting to be a top level pro, and that is your be all and end all, and that is what is ultimately going to make you happy, then the 6 meals in the off season is what you have to do. However, yeah, that could possibly come at a cost to your overall health and well-being.
Yeah, for sure.
But your goal is this, and that's what's going to make you happy. So for me, I try to tell people what to do as such. I try to say, well, what actually makes you happy? Because if I told someone that wants their pro card so badly and wants to be the top level pro to say, hey, you know, I want you to have 3 months off and I just want you to eat 3 meals a day, they're like, but that doesn't make me happy because I want this goal. So then it has the opposite effect. So I think happiness comes first, prioritise your goal, and then be realistic and honest with yourself about what cost that's going to come at.
Exactly.
So yes, you can do it, but it's going to come at a cost.
Definitely.
And yes, I can eat healthy and have 3 meals a day and eat less for longevity, but the cost is my muscle and looking like a bodybuilder.
Sure, yeah, exactly.
So you can't do both. So as long as you understand that you can't do both, it takes the pressure off, but you need to do what makes you happy.
Absolutely, I agree with that. And coming to happiness and actually climbing the mountain and getting to the top of the mountain, for example, like Ben Bukulski, remember we talked about him earlier. I'm a massive fan, and he's a mate of yours, right? He's a prime example. He said, you know, he done everything he could. He was the biggest man on the planet. He got to the top level. So he got to, obviously he got to Mr. Olympia. Yeah. And he got to like pretty much...
He was always placing like inside the top 10.
Exactly. And he was like basically like the biggest human on earth, one of the biggest, heaviest, conditioned.
The best legs on stage.
Best legs on stage, just absolute animal. But he said, like, you know, he got to the top of the mountain and he just wasn't happy. You know what I mean? So you were saying then, if it's going to make you happy, you know, your goal is, right, I want to get to pro level or whatever it is. Do you think, I've found that addressing the why with people, like, why do you want to do it, right? Is there any particular deep-seated reasons? Is it insecurities? Because a lot of it does stem down to that, doesn't it? Insecurities or something that happened in childhood or whatever. Yeah. Do you think that's really important to address, like, why am I doing this? Like, because it's a lot to sacrifice. If you're going to literally potentially compromise your health to get there, it's a big sacrifice.
Yeah, and I was talking to, I was listening to Candace King. She's the top level Olympia figure pro for IFBB. And she said on stage on the weekend, Tony Doherty asked her, how many times a day do you train, or how many hours a day do you train? And she said, 5.5. But that's by choice. That makes her happy.
Yeah, exactly.
Imagine training 5.5 hours. Like, I've done it a little bit, but I'm telling you right now, when I was doing the 5.5 training hours of training a day, I wasn't bloody happy.
Yeah, exactly.
I was hating it,
but
I was doing it because I was trying to achieve a goal, but it wasn't sustainable for me because it didn't make me happy. It's sustainable for her because doing that actually makes her happy.
That's it. Again, it's
you can stick to something pretty uncomfortable if it makes you happy.
That's it.
And so for me, like...
And life's all about that, isn't it?
Yeah, and the thing that makes me happy at the moment is actually the posing.
Yeah.
I really like routine choreography. I love working with bodybuilders and bikini athletes and physique competitors, all of that. So I work 7 days a week, any time of day, night, morning, whatever. Why? Like, it doesn't tire me out because I actually am happy when I'm doing it.
Yeah, for sure. That's
PT, on the other hand, not so happy, so I minimise the time that I spend PTing, so I do like it.
Yeah, I see.
So for me, any more than 6 hours a week PT, and I'm not happy anymore.
Really? Yeah, that's it.
I love the posing. I could do that full time, but PT I had to cut back a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's all about just identifying what actually, and be honest with yourself, what makes you happy, and sticking to that.
That's it, sticking to that and trusting the process, isn't it? No, I was just going to ask you as well about obviously Justin. So, you know, you married?
No.
Okay, so your boyfriend. I was going to say husband, but I won't say that then.
It sounds weird saying.
I'll put him on the spot now. He's listening to this.
Boyfriend, partner.
Yeah, exactly. So your boyfriend Justin, undefeated bodybuilder, pro. He's pro. What federation is he again?
He's for NABA. So actually, he's only done one IFBB show, and that was back in 2010. And it was kind of in alignment with another NABA show. So, but he's always done NABA. So he's just recently, well, actually, it would have been in October last year, won his Mr. Universe title for NABA, and that was in Birmingham in the UK. And that was the pinnacle of his career as well. Like that's what he's been going for since 25 years ago. Yeah, that was his aim. So he's finally got that title.
Awesome.
But the way he preps and the way I prep have been very different.
And that's what I was going to get to. How do you, or something along those lines, how do you manage to balance it? Because obviously you both put your heart and soul into getting where you've got in the bodybuilding world and whatnot.
How we don't kill each other.
How do you not kill each other? How have you not killed each other yet? I know it helps when obviously you're both in the same game.
Sometimes it helps and sometimes it doesn't, doesn't it?
Sometimes,
I think we're both lucky. I don't think that it's not really normal that two people that compete can come together and actually make it work. I think it's a really funny sport like that. But I think we're the exception to the rule where it has been quite comfortable. We're not saying it's 100% easy because there's always times that are going to be tough. But generally it has helped in our situation because I've understood what it feels like to be depleted and to come home and actually not want to hold a conversation because you're just tired. It's not because you don't want to talk to the other person. It's just that you're physically so drained because you put everything into training for hours and hours on end in the day that your calories are low, almost too low to sustain anything more outside of that training session. And a little conversation takes a lot of energy.
Oh, definitely, yeah. It's taxing.
Yeah. So Justin and I pretty much don't really talk much and have a good conversation for about 5 weeks out of his show. But I don't crack shits at him. I just understand that. So when he comes home from work, I'm like, hey, how was your day?
Yeah.
Good. That's as good as the sentence is going to, that's as good as the answer. Not good, this happened, that happened. Just, good, okay, great.
Because you can both relate what you're feeling, isn't it? That's the most important thing, isn't it? Okay, that's interesting. So I was going to ask you about also your view on your thoughts on supplements, because ever since I stopped taking them, to be honest, again, it was about 2 years ago, a year and a half, 2 years ago, the only supplement I do take now is creatine. That's the only one really that has scientific evidence to prove it works really anyway. But obviously, they have their place to a certain extent, but I find more of them are just they're so processed, artificial sweeteners, and all the rest of it nowadays. And how I felt and people I've known, when they cut the supplements out and they just focus more on whole foods, they feel better. Generally, I'm just not a big fan. So I always talk shit about most supplements, to be honest. But I'm not going to go that far into it. But what are your thoughts on supplements? Are you on the spot now?
Well, I'll tell you this. I understand what you're saying, and this is why I only use Gentex Supplements. I'm sponsored by Gentex as well, but I wouldn't be sponsored by a company if I didn't believe in it.
Oh, of course,
and the guy that owns this company, he's been a bodybuilder and a very successful one. His name's Nick Jones, and he designed or started to put in place his own supplement brand, not just because he wanted to make money, none of that, but he wanted supplements that he would actually use himself. He didn't want to put shit into his body. He wanted the highest quality of anything going, and he just found that there was a real gap in the market and there wasn't really anything that he was willing to use.
I see. Do you know what sweeteners he uses in there? Does he use you don't know what sweeteners? Because the artificial sweeteners and all the studies coming out.
Yeah, he's got some products like that, but he also does. But he also some of the products, because to be honest, EAAs and BCAAs, they taste crap, right?
Exactly.
In their pure form, they taste rubbish.
That's right.
So Nick has got some with the artificial sweeteners,
yeah,
so that people will want to buy
yeah,
it.
of course, yeah.
However, because his target market is athletes,
Yeah.
like high-level athletes, most of his other supplements are just in the pure form. They taste revolting, but you know what?
Yeah.
If you're like
It's the
yourself,
best way to do it, though, isn't it? Yeah.
yeah. So he's got the option there, which I
Definitely.
actually like too, because I know that his products are the best. However, if I've got some of my clients that are brand new to the gym, they're just getting into it, they're used to binge eating and all this sort of thing, and they just need something to get them going that's a little bit healthier than what they were doing before, then he's got products that I can implement into their sessions.
Awesome.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I'll bear that in
amino
mind.
acids and things like that,
Cool.
with a little bit of flavour that, don't make you want to throw up.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And you educate them so that they can eventually move on to the hardcore stuff.
Exactly, that's it. Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
pure stuff.
I see what you mean. Yeah. Going on to on that note, obviously we said about like health and the dark side and stuff like that. Yeah. How do you find, like, because obviously to get on the stage at that level, you're going to have to take the other supplements as well, right? Which is, it's well known. Like, I mean, I never look down on anyone, nothing like that. I mean, it makes nothing. It's nothing like that. I've never taken them myself. Obviously, I haven't really needed to. I've got to the pro level naturally. Placed top 10 in the world. Maybe I could have got a bit higher if I did, but there we are. Like, I was happy with that. Yeah, but who knows? But I was happy just to get up there. And yeah, like obviously people are abusing it, like anything in life, right? So like I've known people who do it and they do it and they're perfectly fine. They get regular tests. Their hormones are all in check, and all the rest of it, and they feel okay, and they cycle it and whatnot. But there's people who are coming in uneducated. Like, it's almost like an epidemic now in America, where there's like guys, for example, in their early 20s, can't even get an erection anymore. Like, there's a guy I know who coaches like the screwed up people, basically in America, like men's physique guys. And you know how big the men's physique guys are out there. So they're taking, like, all year round, they're taking stuff, but non-stop, not having a break. And then lo and behold, then obviously the natural testosterone levels are just like diminished.
Yeah.
So have you experienced, like, have you seen people screw themselves up and whatnot? Or?
Yeah, I have, and it's a really hard one because again, like I'm not qualified to prescribe anything or particularly give advice, but all I can say is like there's all these federations that people say, oh, don't do that federation because everyone's going to be on gear, but actually. At the moment, 100% of my clients are 100% natural, and they're doing federations that are so-called unnatural federations. So, and they're placing.
There we go.
Yeah, and I think that the frustrating thing that I have is that people think that you can't compete against people on drugs.
That's exactly it. They put it at the top, don't they? As if like the pro training programming and the nutrition and all the other stuff is not that important.
Yeah.
Like, that is not at the top, is it really?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it depends, like,
To be
if you
beaten
look
by
at this Olympia
someone,
level, I mean, it's like different. They're genetic anomalies.
they've got genetics. The guys in the top, like
work
the top.
Work rate like no other.
That's right. Yeah, so they've got everything else 100%, and then they add that.
Exactly, that's it.
So, but
Interesting.
I would just say that it depends on your headspace and it depends on your confidence as well. So, for me, I try and educate my clients, okay, you might be up against this person that's using this, this, and this. However, you're great with your diet, you're extremely tough in the gym, like you don't give up, you push heavy weights, like you've got all of this stuff in check, and I try and remind them of that so that their confidence is elevated. And they, instead of being intimidated by going up against people that are using, instead they're like, I'm going to show them. I'm going to beat them.
Yeah, yeah.
I can actually do this naturally, and I can.
That's it. They acquire the mindset that's necessary, isn't it?
Yes, and from what I've seen, most of the people that are implementing it really early actually are doing that because of no other reason other than like self-confidence. So if they're relying on that to give them confidence, they're going to lose.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're beatable.
That's beatable. It. And that's a very good point. It's a slippery slope, like, in general, right? Because, I mean, worldwide now, like, steroids are rife, right? Worldwide, really. But when you attach, like, even just in general, for example, I'll get, not talking about the supplements now, but if I get a new client come in, occasionally it'll happen. Actually, I mean, for the most part, people want to look good, right? Primarily, before anything else. And what I find is they think, right, if I get this physique, I'm going to be happy, right? Because I've experienced it before. If I get to that point, I'm going to be happy. If I get there, I'm going to be happy once I've got this physique. But the body image issues, unless you address, like I said, unless you address why you want to get there and the underlying reasons behind it, which, like I said, is normally insecurities. 110%, that physique is not going to make you happier, guaranteed. It might give you more confidence, like you said, and make you a bit more, maybe a tiny bit happier just from outgoing. If you want to do it for a photo shoot or you want to get on stage, you know, it might benefit you. But all in all, the physique alone is not going to make you happy, right? Yeah. So where I was going with that is like, it's basically realizing that the happiness comes from within, right? So just people attaching, like I used to, this is what I didn't see. I've always been in shape, but when I got to that level of competing, I was always like, right, I want to maintain the physique. Like I said, when I was restrictive eating and then binge eating, trying so hard to keep the physique all year round, and it just wasn't happening. It was the biggest battle ever. But now, ever since I've got to a point where I'm not even thinking about it, it's secondary. So now I focus on like how I feel, like you say, getting enough sleep, all these simple things which make a massive difference. Sleeping enough, you know, drinking enough water, eating the right food, say 80% of the time.
He stretches
stretching. I stretch a lot. I do a lot of stretching.
I love the stretching.
Yeah. So, how do you manage to like maintain it all year round? Because obviously, I was going to ask you to see if you could give listeners some tips on basically just getting in shape and maintaining it, and then how you address the psychological side of it, because you've been at that top level with the physique, which is like razor sharp, like virtually no body fat. How do you, the first question is the psychological side. How do you manage it, like off stage, you see what I mean? Like just staying healthy and keeping a good physique, but not being shredded. You see what I mean? Because people struggle with that, don't they? Yeah.
I know a lot of people struggle with that. So for me, again, it always goes back to happiness for me, and I've identified the things that make me the happiest is actually progress, and it's progress in anything. So if I'm progressing really well with work, I actually feel happy, regardless if I'm training or not. And I've gone, like I won my pro card, and then I did almost 2 years after that of not training at all. And everyone said, how can you do that? And I'm like, because I was actually happy working. Like the working that I was doing, I was making such good progress and making good money that I actually drew a lot of happiness from that. And in actual fact, I looked healthy because I was happy, not necessarily because I was training or what have you. So I know it doesn't really help everyone in terms of how do you stay lean and whatever, but for me, I can not get the guilt with not training the house down if I am happy.
Yes.
And I have to be, the only way I can be happy is if I'm progressing in something.
Same.
So either progressing in relationships where like my friends and I are getting along really well and we're spending good quality time together, we're having really good conversation, that makes me happy. So if I'm progressing there, I actually identify that, hey, this week I didn't train, however, I did this great thing and this great thing with this person, and it actually feels awesome.
It does.
And that helps me stay healthy, and it's for my well-being. Or this week I didn't train at all, but I did this with work and this with work and this with work, and I progressed with work, and that's awesome. That's awesome as well. So that makes me happy. And all of these things contribute to your overall health and well-being.
Definitely. 100%.
I feel.
That's it.
So
I agree with that as well, yeah. And like, it doesn't matter, relationships are so important, aren't they? Because that's just a prime example, but like, it doesn't matter like what you accumulate in your life, you know, what materials you have at the end of it or whatever, when it comes to money and finance, whatever. You're going to be remembered for the relationships you have with people, right?
Yeah.
So let's face it, that's really important, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'm glad you mentioned that because, it's very, very important.
well, that's one thing that obviously suffers when you're prepping.
Yeah, for
because
sure.
you can't socialise, not like you want to. You can't have those proper connections with people because you're mentally and physically, you know, completely exhausted from your training sessions, and you just don't have that connection. So for the time you're prepping, all of that sort of stuff suffers. So you might be happy because you're looking a certain way, but that's one element. And when you're not training, you can be happy in other areas by focusing on that. But just identify it. Let yourself actually see outside the box. Like, it's not all about the way you look. However, if the way you look is the be-all and end-all that makes you happy, then yes, do that. My grandfather, who has passed away, he had an obsession with cars.
Yeah.
So the only thing on the planet that would make him happy was cars. So unless he was doing that, he wasn't happy. So some people need to focus. And
definitely.
they need to have laser focus on one thing.
It's
but
purpose,
for me,
isn't it?
it's my purpose is a variety of things, and perhaps that's why I haven't competed again. because I did that. I felt like I ticked that. That did make me happy. But now the work side of things is making me really happy too.
Great. And that's what I find as well. It's like you got to have purpose in life. That's the most important thing, because you can relate this to fitness or whatever your journey is in life. I find people get so caught up on the end goal. So you can say that in the physique as well. You know, you get so caught up on the end goal and wanting to get from A to B, right? They forget about the process. And that's all we have, right? The here and now, that's all we have. So enjoying the process, I think, is key, right? And purpose is what drives us forward. So people don't realise that they actually, like your granddad, for example, with the cars, it's like that was his purpose in life. That's where his life, his enjoyment, his hobby, if you like, you know. So so just to wrap it up then, just one thing you'd like to tell the listeners, like you just said then, you'd like to make progress in life. So are there any tips you have in terms of making progress, growing, you know, for example, like learning and gratitude and being grateful for things? I find that helpful myself. Is there anything that you implement yourself, like any routines or habits that you implement, or anything that helps you make progress in particular?
I don't try and dwell on the fact that something doesn't work. So, like I've tried lots of things and they've failed, and I've experienced a lot of failures, and I try really hard not to focus on the failure as a bad thing.
Oh, there we go. That's great.
That's simple.
That's great though, because like most successful people do say that anyway. So
yeah, I try, and I've heard them say that as well. Yeah, exactly. And
no losing.
You know, for every great thing that happens, and every time you're successful, there's been tens or hundreds or thousands of failures prior to that. So being successful means that you're going to fail along the way, but you fail forward. I don't know who actually originally said that, but fail forward was something that stuck with me. So you fail, you keep moving forward, you learn from it. You fail again, you keep moving forward. Eventually, you will be successful.
Definitely. Great stuff.
And that's it.
Awesome. That's perfect. Thanks very much, Aim. It was great to have you on Optimize Your Body. And if you're listening to this, if you can give me, on iTunes, if you can give me like 5-star rating, please, and a review. 5 stars, yeah? 5. That would be highly appreciated.
He's doing a good job. He's doing the podcast all by himself.
Yeah, all by myself. It's a grind, isn't it, eh?
Yeah.
It's a grind. And I wanted to mention to my listeners as well, just so they can listen to a few of your episodes. What's the name of your podcast?
I actually haven't recorded for a really long time.
Yeah, that's fine. Is it still on? Is it still on?
It's still on. So it's called Iron Maiden Radio. Iron Maiden Radio.
Iron Maiden Radio. Yeah. Cool. So if you want to listen to any of her podcasts, you said right now it's not going right now.
No, so the girl that I was recording with, she's actually moved to Vegas. She's opened up a gym in Vegas.
How selfish is that?
Renee Schmidt. So we're actually thinking about getting back into it, but that was a lot of fun. We talk about the female aspect of competing and that kind of thing in Australia. So
I'm sure a lot of my listeners want to tune into that. And what's your Instagram handle? I'll put it on my thing. But
The Aussie Fox.
The Aussie Fox. Yeah. Underscore, isn't it? The Aussie _ Fox?
No, all one word. Yeah.
The Aussie Fox, right? That's Amy Fox. Check her out. Go follow her.
Thanks, everyone.
Once again, thanks again.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.